All right. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadvip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jamunamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, for the kirtan, and thank you everyone for joining us for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, January 4th, 2022 in New York, a day later in Vrindavan. We're in the third canto, 12th chapter, the creation of the Kumaras and others. Today we're starting with text number 32. Looking forward to hearing your questions and comments. If you'd like to lead the closing kirtan tonight, send me a direct message. Be happy to arrange that. And we're so happy you could join us, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kendra Prabhu. And thank you, Mahesh Pandit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Yaidamasvena Rojisha Atmastam Vyanjanam Masa Natsadharmam Hatum Arhati. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, who by his own effulgence, while situated in himself, has manifested this cosmos. May he also protect religion for all goodness. Purport. Lust for sexual intercourse is so strong that it appears herein that Brahma could not be dissuaded from his determination, in spite of the appeal by his great sons like Marichi. Therefore, the great sons began to pray to the Supreme Lord for the good sense of Brahma. It is only by the grace of the Supreme Lord that one can be protected from the allurement of lusty material desires. The Lord gives protection to devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental loving service. And by his causeless mercy, he forgives the accidental fall of a devotee. Therefore, sages like Marichi prayed for the mercy of the Lord, and their prayer was successful. Om Jnana Timidandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Bhaiham Tadhati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Shahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Puri Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The Marichi and the sages had tried to dissuade Brahma, appealing to his good sense, and they failed. So now they directly appealed to the personality of Godhead for his mercy. The lust is so strong that by one's own power alone, one is practically unable to resist the power of lust, to withstand the power of lust. It requires the mercy of Krishna. This is, what is that? Daivihesha gunamai mama maya duratya. Maya is practically insurmountable. Ma me viye prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. But those who surrender to me can easily cross beyond it. Surrender to me means that one gets the mercy of the Lord. Surrender means that now I depend on you. Now it's up to you. You can do with me as you like. So the person who takes shelter of the Lord, the person who surrenders to the Lord, is protected by the Lord. So that's Krishna's mercy. He's protector of surrendered souls. Even a demon may surrender to the Lord, and the Lord will protect him. So the sages prayed to the Lord directly, please be merciful, so that Brahma can come back to the right standard. Tasmai namo bhagavate yaidam svena rochisha. The personality of God that has manifested the whole cosmos by his effulgence, by his power. Atmastam vyajanamas. And by he's situated himself in himself, and still he's manifested everything. And dharmam, sadharmam patumarhati. May he protect religious principles. Brahma is somehow failing, so they're approaching the Lord himself. You please protect the religious principles for the benefit of the world. And it's also stated here, the Lord gives protection to devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental loving service. And by his causeless mercy, he forgives the accidental fall of the devotee. Okay, let's see what's going on here in the chat box. Isn't it an infringement of the free will of Brahma that others are praying to the Lord against his desires? Well, what shall we say? They know his better judgment. Brahma's desire is to serve the Lord, but somehow he's been temporarily overpowered by the enemy forces, and therefore he's showing signs of bewilderment. So they're appealing to the Lord, please adjust matters. Your material energy is so strong that it's bewildered Brahma. Please make some suitable adjustment. Even Brahma, were he in control of his faculties, would agree with this request. Would agree with his request. Just like a madman, somebody's the classic cliche in a movie is that some person's like lost it. He's bewildered, and someone gives him a slap, and it's thanks, I needed that. So it's his own desire. Brahma's own desire would be to come back to the standard. And so the sages are not wrong in praying that way, and the Lord would not be wrong to grant their request. Saraswati says, it is clear that the allurement of any type of material desires is so powerful that even the most exalted devotee, Brahma, is affected. So it seems like a fool's hope for a common conditioned soul to ever become immune to material desires. If a leader is leading others out of darkness and illusion, but instead falls in the same darkness, then how can weaker followers keep any hope alive of ever getting out of darkness if they cannot reach that standard of fully surrendering to Lord Krishna? Yes, this is a large question. I led an Ishtagosti one time many years ago for Back to Godhead concerning the fall, the implications of fall down, the forces that go into fall down. It's there. My goodness, you'd have to look, search. I can't even give you a year when we published it. It was our special fall issue, of course, but I don't remember when it was. But if you search through the old BTGs, you might find this. That doesn't help us today, of course. But let's look at it carefully. Prabhupada himself said that in the fight against Maya, some soldiers may fall, but still we have to push on. It's always discouraging. A leader falls, a temple president falls, a sannyasi falls, a guru falls, and everybody else feels like, oh, and what hope is there for me? Not everyone feels that way, but so many will feel that way. And some will leave also. If such and such fell, then it's hopeless for me. And then they go. And then it is hopeless for them because they've left. And yet others stay. That, all right, this person somehow has fallen, but let me continue. Let me continue. And Krishna helps them. Sometimes the person who's fallen comes back to the standard. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma, shashvat chantam migashchati. That also happens. The hopeless persons have left, and the person who fell came back or rectified himself. So they jumped ship too quickly, one might say. They've seen that he's fallen. What hope is there for me? But that person is still going on with devotion to the personality of Godhead. And he comes back to the standard. He doesn't lose hope. He remains fixed in devotional service, while others have left because he fell. So one is advised to stick to the devotional service of the Lord, despite all causes of discouragement. Dhairyat. Dhairyat means with determination and with patience. Yes, that even if all obstacles are there, even if all causes of discouragement are there, let me continue. In Srila Prabhupada's own life, there were so many causes of discouragement, where it seemed like he wasn't going to get anywhere with his League of Devotees, and in so many, with his journey to America, and with everything. The signs were not at first encouraging. There were so many causes for discouragement, and yet Prabhupada kept on. So Rupa Goswami advises Dharya to be steadfast even amidst causes of disappointment, discouragement, even close to hopelessness. Let us carry on and depend on Krishna's mercy. That is the advice. Otherwise, we are hopeless. If we go back to material life is hopeless. If we try to say, well, I'll do everything by my own power, that's hopeless. One is advised, stay in the association of devotees and stay in the process, despite all disasters, catastrophes, discouragements, and so on. Tulsi Priya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Her question brings up a perennial question in my mind, and that's, what is the relationship or the connection exactly? And I don't know if it's a question so much, it's just maybe something I work over in my mind on occasion. But the converse of her question is, if somebody is really advanced and they're doing very well in Krishna consciousness and you're following them, then it would stand to reason that you would also be close, much more advanced than you might expect to be if you're actually following that person. But usually we're always somewhere in the middle. We're not completely fallen or hopeless if our guru is, or our leader is doing well, and we're not completely floating on bhav if I'm unwell, and we're not floating on bhav if he's doing great. We're always sort of never quite up to the same standard and never quite down to the same lack of standard. So why does it matter if he falls? He fell because he had a desire and he gave into it, and we have desires all the time and we don't always give into them. So what difference does it make in one sense if a leader falls? You know, my advancement does it depend on how well he's doing? Or is it dependent on how well I follow the instructions that I've been given?
Yeah. Well, when we come to leaders, naturally it's discouraging. We can't deny that it's discouraging when some leader falls. Just as we never deny that it's inspiring when a leader is leading wonderfully, so it's also discouraging when a leader falls. But yes, when temple presidents or sannyasis or bhakta leaders fall, all right, in one sense that's expected. The material energy is so strong that it's predicted that some must fall. It's not surprising. And we go on. We go on. There's so many who may have fallen. And anyone who's been in this movement for many years must probably have seen devotees who he admired or looked up to or was inspired by, who had difficulties. And still we push on. Now, the special case is the case of the spiritual master. And that was Murari Prabhu's question as we closed the previous session. He's written to me separately and rather at some length, but I'll try to, which is good because it makes clear his question as devil's advocate. And let me sometimes quote or sometimes paraphrase. From the example of Lord Brahma, even the most exalted persons are vulnerable. And so their instructions can be ignored and they can be judged by others. Given that, Brahma's example, how is it practical to think that others won't be vulnerable? And so Prabhupada can be accepted by many as infallible, as a spiritual authority, a perfect example. So the Ritvic philosophy says, why not surrender to him directly, as the Christians do to Jesus? Our priests may be fallible, but Jesus is there. So, and then we get, of course, into Ritvic ideas, and he talks about that a little bit. So let's see, moving further. Okay, so there's several questions here, and there's more to come. The first thing is, well, why not just surrender to the infallible Prabhupada rather than these fallible gurus? And the most obvious answer is that when you surrender to Prabhupada, when you read his books, when you say, all right, I accept his instructions as my life and soul, well, if you're honest, you'll read throughout his books that one has to approach a guru in the disciplic succession and not depend on previous acharyas. I've written about this at quite some length. One just can't really justify from Srila Prabhupada's books and teachings the idea that everything stops with him and the disciplic succession should not continue. So that doesn't really give you a way out, because you surrender to Prabhupada, but then you find out that Prabhupada tells you, you have to surrender down the line. And even practically speaking, followers of the who profess faith in this Ritvik Vad, if you will, wind up following someone contemporary. They wind up following someone contemporary, inevitably. In theory and according to their teachings, they're all disciples of Prabhupada, and yet for all practical purposes, they follow a guru who tells them, now do this, now do that, don't do this, don't do that. Here's the right understanding, here's the wrong understanding. So they can't really escape it that way. Everyone winds up following someone. As much as they may say, no, we just, Prabhupada said this too. There's some priests were saying, they were talking about Guru and said, we follow Jesus. Then Prabhupada said, then what's your function to a priest? If the last guru is Jesus, then who are you? What are you doing? So that way out doesn't really work. So that's an answer to the Ritvik idea. It's a sort of, from a manager's point of view, it may make sense. You have everybody surrendered to this infallible acharya, but in practical terms, they still wind up following you. And in doctrinal terms, you've denied the truth of Prabhupada's teachings. As much as you're saying he is the way, truth, and light, you're denying a central tenet of what he teaches. Now, let me look back at Murari's letter here for a moment. He asks a deeper question. That's well, let's see. Let me just look at what's Saraswati's follow-up question here. The fact is that disciples are relying on their guru's mercy and strength, which they need to progress, because Krishna's mercy is bestowed via the guru. That's why it can be a killing blow for the disciple who's now derailed completely when that mercy-giving guru is now gone. Yes, that's why I singled out the guru as a special case. My temple president may fall, my sannyasi idol may fall, but I can push on. But when my guru falls, that's a huge to my spiritual life. So Murari says, I would like to hear from me why people lesser than Brahma can be trusted with our life and soul, beyond the fact that there's no other option. Of course, there being no other option is pretty conclusive in itself. But then there's the Ritvik option, which we've already been through. Yeah. Well, let's look at two things. Let's look at a minor theme, first of all. It's interesting that, our original guru after Krishna is Brahma. Brahma also gets in some trouble, but then he comes back to the standard. And we're not rejecting Brahma. So that's one instruction that's given by the acharyas, that if the guru, very unfortunately, shows some deviation from the standard, one should not be quick to reject him. One should wait and see whether he back to the standard, and then one should carry on. That's even Brahma came back to the standard, and we haven't rejected. But my internet connection is unstable. But still, we have Murari's question: why should I place faith in anyone other than I have to? Well, I have to, as he said, is a good reason. That is to say, somehow or other, I have to come to Krishna consciousness. Somehow or other, I have to come to the desired platform. And I can't do it by my own power. And therefore, I need help. Therefore, I need help. So how will I get that help? The Vedic system is Tad Vijnanartam Saguru Meva. One should approach the bona fide guru. And there's not, yes, one should approach the bona fide guru. Now, why should I trust? Well, the first thing is, I should be careful. And again, we're sort of whittling down some of the problems. We're not solving all the problems. But this is the first thing. There's some people who you don't have to look very far to see that they're shaky. You don't have to look very far to see that they're not following. You don't have to look so far to see that they're not really to the standard, or that they're just not very substantial in Krishna consciousness. So then one should be, one's better sense should kick in, and one should say, well, if this person's not really following, if this person's not really to the standard, or if this person is, I see, just not very strong or advanced in Krishna consciousness, then why should I put my life in his hands? That advice is given, that one shouldn't very carelessly undertake such a move, but with due consideration. If we're doing a big business deal, if we're getting married, if we're making any major decision, we consider very carefully. So one should consider very carefully, do I have confidence in this person? Am I prepared to surrender? The advice is given in Nectar instruction that one should surrender to Anuttamadhikari, a person who's the most advanced in devotional service. And although one may, Prabhupada said, accept a Madhyamadhikari, but then it will be more difficult for one to make progress under his insufficient guidance. An answer given by Gaur Govinda Maharaj is that one should cry to Krishna to find a bona fide spiritual master, qualified spiritual master. One should cry to Krishna. On my own, even my intelligence will not be sufficient to tell me where I should go, where I should put my trust. So one should cry to Krishna, you please help me. And by extension of that advice, we could say that if there's some difficulty, if the guru winds up in difficulty, encounters some difficulty or actually falls, then one should cry to Krishna, you please help. The Marichi and the sages called out to Krishna, we've tried everything, you please help. And their prayer was successful. If it hadn't been successful, still they could pray to Krishna. Now what do we do? We've lost Brahma. Of course, they can't lose Brahma. Krishna protects Brahma. Brahma comes back to the standard. But if the guru falls and it's clear this is a permanent downfall, then we have to go to Krishna. You please help me. I've seen, apart from the Ritvik idea, other kinds of solutions that should probably be at least identified as attempts at solutions. One is sort of to put, to trivialize the guru, to make the guru, well, the guru is important, but not so important. The GBC is more important. You can always rely on the GBC, or the institution is important. Just stay in the institution, follow the institution. And the guru is, yeah, he's there and he's bona fide because he's part of the institution, or even he gets his power from the institution. I've seen that. He's got, his potency comes through a kind of managerial parampara because he's affiliated with the institution and endorsed by the governing body. Therefore, he has potency. And if he leaves, well, the institution is still there. We gave him potency, we're still there. So even while, if he's doing fine, you should really be looking more to the governments of the society and to the society's leadership and structure, because the guru is just, he's there, he's important, but not as important as you'd think. So that's a sort of, again, another shot at a sort of managerial or pragmatic approach. How are we going to deal with this problem? Well, we'll make the guru less important. The disadvantage there is that the Shastras are teaching that the guru is so important that one should make his teachings one's life and soul. So now we've got, we've cushioned the potential blow by distributing the authority and lessening the importance of the guru. But then spiritual life becomes dull, and the disciple doesn't get what he's supposed to be getting because he doesn't really have faith in the guru, or because the guru is just one of many people in his life. So that becomes problematic also. There was another one. Well, various attempts along those lines to make the guru just less important, so that if he falls down, the loss will be less. So it's really, in one sense, a crypto-Ritvik approach, or a modified Ritvik approach, or another approach along those lines. But it involves, of course, lessening the importance given by Shastra to the spiritual master. From another point of view, it's said more with greater authority that the real real guidance comes from Shastra, because Shastra, Guru, and sadhus, among the three, Prabhupada said the Shastra is the most important. Tasmat Shastra Pramanante. And that's a fact, that if the Guru is asking me to act against the principles of Shastra, then I have to say what's going on here. As Shukracharya was asking Bali Maharaj, don't give everything to this Vamandev. He is Vishnu. Well, wait a second. Shastra is telling me to give everything to Vishnu. So Shastra is the, in that sense, the ultimate authority, although we learn the Shastra from the Guru. So, but that protects us. The Guru is saying, come on, let's all take LSD. Come on, let's do something totally contrary to Shastra. No, we can't do that. And Marichi and the sages are seeing that, well, why not? You know, Brahma wants to have a good time with his daughter. What's the problem there? And of course, the problem is that this is against religious principles. It's not just subjective that Marichi and the sages think, well, this doesn't look very good, but it's upheld by Shastra that this is not to be done. They know that. Our lights are going on and off here. They know that. So they're standing by the Shastra. And personally, I would put more faith in that than in councils of men, of selected leaders. I would look to Shastra, because that's where our teachings are pointing us ultimately. For management, there's the managerial authority, but ultimately for tattva, for understanding the path of spiritual life, our ground is the Shastra. So we have to see from Shastra, karya vyavastita, what is what. And in that case, then all right, let me, if the Guru falls down, most regrettably, still I have to follow the Shastra, and still I have the guidance of sadhus, saintly persons. Let's see what's in the chat box. And also, let me say, on the other side, there's so many gurus who don't fall. They finish the course gloriously, and it's wonderful. But that doesn't mean that these other cases aren't there, which we need to take into account before we go forward and place our faith here or there. Now, let's see. Saraswati says, I know of many disciples whose gurus left, and they pleaded to Krishna sincerely to take whatever minute sukriti or seva they may have and give it to their guru so he can go back to Goloka. After all, as a disciple, my value is nothing without my guru. Yes, so that that point is there, that one can appeal to Krishna. Sir, you please help. Panchatattva says, Yeah, the same thing about a comment about the Ritviks, that the Ritviks, in spite of being Prabhupada's disciples, they think of their Ritvik priest as their spiritual master. And some of them, they'll come right out and say that. So neophyte disciples bask in borrowed glory. My guru is the best. And when he falls, they turn on him because their stature is reduced. I don't know if that's the institutional culture or just human nature, he says. Yes, so that's another thing. Another point, two other points, actually. One is that considering the gravity of all this, how much impact falling down has on followers and especially disciples, those who are leaders should be so careful. Those who are leaders should be so careful, especially about association of women, because that's the most common fall down. People don't usually fall down for chocolate ice cream and offer to a free round trip to Hawaii. It's women. That's the usual, Maya's usual weapon. So the sannyasis, temple presidents, leaders, and especially gurus should be so careful about association of women. Matra, svastra, dvitrava. One should not be alone with women. One should not be loose in behavior with women. One should be so careful in that regard because Maya is so strong. The gurus should think so many people are depending on me. So many people are depending on me. The mission is depending on me. I'm representing Prabhupada, so I have to be so careful because others will also be. It's not only me, but others will be affected. And the other side is that the disciples should think that I have to follow my guru and not burden him with my sinful activities. Prabhupada made that point also, that the sinful activities of the disciples drag on the guru. So the disciples should be thinking that I don't want to commit sinful activities and be a weight that my spiritual master has to bear. I have to follow. Some devotees say that the order to become guru has come in a singled out way directly by their guru. This may occur in person or some mystical way, but without such a direct order, one cannot become an authentic guru. They will bring up the quote by Prabhupada, I will appoint some. Yeah. So that's true. That's in some way, one should be empowered by the spiritual master. If you ask the Ritvik people, what would be evidence that someone was empowered? Well, they waffle because there's a letter to one sannyasi, Tushta Krishna, who was rather marginal in his relationship with the society, where Prabhupada emphatically says you can continue following the regulative principles and you can become guru. So what would be more of an appointment? Is that not an evident order? You have to get the order, then you can. So he got the order. So you can argue that no one got the order except Tushta Krishna Swami. So the order is not, it's not clear to the folks in Bangalore exactly what an order would consist of. If you ask them, as I did, they waffle on it. But we understand that Prabhupada gave the order to everyone. Amara Agya Guru Hayad Atare. You become qualified and do this because the Krishna consciousness movement should spread. So we find, for example, that Kaviraj Goswami, before writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, he got blessings of the devotees. He got the blessings of the Govinda deity. So he felt confident that, yes, I can do this. And there may be, we won't talk about too much about that. But or the Guru may, some Guru says, all right, Sridhar Maharaj told me and another group that now I am entrusting everything to Govinda Maharaj. You please invest in him your blessings and compassion, I believe he said. Anyway, the spiritual master may appoint some. He can do that, or he may not. He may say, see who comes out self-effulgently. Prabhin says, one devotee approached his mentor seeking clarity between two gurus, among whom he wants to select. The counselor gave his opinion that one was not very advanced because of some not very good instances, although the guru rectifies, and the other guru was of Paka character. After some time, the devotee took initiation from the Paka character. Now that we have to differentiate between gurus, invariably there's consideration of this guru having a very clear record, this one having some unfortunate incidents recently. So new aspirants come to us asking for advice to select a guru. Should we be divulging these secrets so that may be benefited, or is it blasphemy? We're running out of time, but generally speaking, you may disclose, or someone else will disclose. Everything's disclosed these days. Everything is disclosed these days. But if someone is coming to me for advice, then I should try to advise him reliably and honestly, and not just gloss over things. Shouldn't a disciple whose spiritual master has fallen recognize that such an extraordinary event doesn't happen by mere accident? I know it sounds a little heartless, but isn't it our philosophy that such a calamitous event doesn't happen in a vacuum, so to speak? There are underlying causes which may arise from the disciple's own past activities or faults. It gets to be quite the discussion. It doesn't happen in a vacuum, but there are underlying causes. That's discussed by Srila Prabhupada someplace in Bhagavad Gita, I think. It's how material and spiritual paths generally go together, but sometimes they may, what's the word? Diverge. They may go in different directions. But that's not, then things come back to the standard. So one looks at that, one looks at one's own faults, but going backward, that before one accepts a spiritual master, one should be scrutinizing. one should be scrutinizing. And at the same time, taking Gaur Govinda Maharaj's advice, cry to Krishna, please give me a qualified person, and Krishna can help. There's, of course, this is a longer discussion. One can look, those who are interested could look up that old BTV article. I think there's some points of benefit there. There have been things written by other devotees giving shastric advice about fall downs of gurus and so on. But we could have an istagosti. We could go on with this topic for a long time. But and Prabhupada sometimes said we have to look not to the failures, but to the success. Otherwise, we're finished. We'll look and say, oh, there's nobody I can trust. There's nobody I can follow. There's nothing I can do. It's all over. It's a nice philosophy, but nothing can be done. So we have to soberly and with cognizance of the problems or dangers involved, still we have to go forward. If you're being offered, a rope, the helicopter has come to rescue you from the sea. If you start reviewing all the instances of helicopters that have crashed and ropes that have snapped and people who've died anyway, then you're never going to grab the rope and you're never going to get out. So that's called catastrophizing, to just allow one's mind to dwell on all the possible catastrophes that could occur, so that we never go forward. If I go out to buy a liter of milk, I might get hit by a lorry along the way. This might happen, that might happen. I can't do anything. The mathematician Gödel died that way. He became so paranoid that he couldn't accept food from anyone. He couldn't do anything. And finally he died of starvation at Princeton University. He's a brilliant mathematician. So one can't be so fearful that one can't take any step forward. But one shouldn't be so reckless that one haphazardly entrusts oneself to the guidance of a person who's not a reliable guide. One should seek the best possible guidance and then move forward. I think that's as far as we can go today, especially given the time. And let us let us stop here with thanks to all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Shripad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Kopi Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. Thank you to Meena Dasi. Thank you to all the devotees. And thank you to Panchatattva Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Jaya.
Oh, thank you, Gurudev.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Panchatattva Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dakshana. And Hare Bol to all.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. Hare Bol.